Yes, Chinese fortune-telling uses symbols for calculation, while Western astrology is just counting apples. What? Elena gave Liang a puzzled, amused smile. And Liang looked up and said, Heh, you're slowing me down. If the work I finish in 1 hour doesn't satisfy you, would you even be willing to listen to what I have to say next? Elena replied politely, I'm enjoying our conversation very much. Both filling out these forms and talking with you are satisfying. Go ahead however you like. And Liang lowered his head again to calculate the bazi on the form, but continued chatting with Elena in a relaxed tone. Both Chinese metaphysics and Western astrology originated from astronomy. They share the core idea that human destiny is influenced by celestial bodies, Earth included of course. The difference lies in how they interpret this influence. Chinese metaphysics assigns symbolic representations to all celestial bodies and earthly phenomena, each symbol carrying specific numerical values and properties. By manipulating these symbols like solving an algebraic equation, you can directly deduce events in a person's life using just 8 characters. Western astrology, on the other hand, requires constructing a natal chart for each individual, recreating the exact sky at their moment of birth. That involves complex data lookup, precise angular measurements, and then inferring personality traits from which fate is extrapolated. Isn't staring at that chart of original celestial positions just like counting apples? If direct visual counting were faster than arithmetic, then astrology would outpace bazi prediction. Elena stopped what she was doing and laughed. You're very interesting. Thank you. And Liang handed her a form. This is the accidental injury report. All times and body parts are filled in. The next one is the accidental death report. I won't finish it within the hour, but I'll try my best. Elena took the form and placed it silently on the desk. She stood up and walked around to Liang's side, watching him calculate with an unreadable expression. And Liang, seemingly accustomed to multitasking, kept talking without pause. My high-speed calculations sacrifice some accuracy. The broad strokes will be correct, but details may be off. For certain qualitative or quantitative life aspects, you'll need to fine-tune them yourself. For example, your form defines households earning over 300 annually as middle class. But what if someone has a large stash of undeclared cash or gold? Bazi can reveal that. But your records won't show it, and no one would admit it if you ask directly. In such cases, who's right and who's wrong becomes impossible to judge. Elena slumped back into her chair. Hearing you say that, I realize there's another problem in my research on the relationship between genes and behavior. Subjects might be hiding facts. If we can't solve that, maybe I should just learn fortune-telling instead. It seems more accurate, doesn't it? So far, based on what you've told me, Bazi does have the upper hand. But then again, who knows if you're hiding facts too? Ling glanced up at Elena. She gave a cold laugh. You're too clever. I really want to analyze your genes. Ling didn't smile. He stared at her coldly and asked, Do you know any of these people on the forms? Most are from hospital and prison records. I generally don't know them. EP07. Can you check whether this person is dead or not? Liang stopped calculating and waited for Elena's reaction. Elena wore an indifferent expression and spoke in a lazy drawl. Liang, we agreed you'd just calculate these forms, if you finish early. Liang's expression turned terrifyingly serious. His voice was low but firm. We never agreed I couldn't ask about this person first. EP31, please check for me. Or maybe you don't even need to check. You could just tell me right now. Elena lit another cigarette, stood up and walked behind Liang, resting her hands on the back of his chair. Born September 1, 1963 at noon. According to my records, this person is already dead. Liang swiveled his chair to face her directly. Gui Mao year, Gengshen month, Ding Wei day, Bing Wu hour. This BAZ indicates rising from nothing, immense wealth and strong personal vitality, a destined tycoon. This year he's entering an official luck cycle. He should be making waves in politics. In 10 years he'd be a political star. This is David's chart. Elena slowly wiped the smile off her face. Your memory is impressive. I originally wanted to compare your prediction with his gene sequence, but since you figured it out already, there's no need. Still, wasn't he fated to die this year? Your reasoning lacks logic. Does David's genetic profile carry a death marker? Elena didn't answer. She crossed one arm over her chest, held her cigarette in the other hand, and gazed at Liang with a mysterious, alluring smile. Liang stood up and placed his notebook on the table. You're deciding whether or not to tell me the truth. You know far more than I imagined. Elena chuckled again. She tilted her head and stepped close to Liang, whispering against his ear. So cute, I can tell you if it brings us closer. She parted her lips slightly, her hazy eyes sweeping across Liang's face, waiting for his acknowledgement, as if waiting for a kiss. Liang avoided her gaze. Elena walked over to a computer, then stepped back. All right, I have the genetic profiles of everyone in the company. David's original profile had no death marker. But after he died, I went straight to the conference room and extracted a sample from the pen he used that day. This time, the entire genetic sequence had completely changed. Completely changed? What do you mean? It was like a different person. Physiology, personality, medical history, even the death marker, all transformed. Only the fact that it was still human DNA remained recognizable. Liang asked, why would that happen? That's exactly why I hired you. I want to understand what force could alter genes or fate so rapidly. You know, genetic mutation or gene therapy doesn't happen overnight. Her words struck Liang like thunder from a clear sky. According to Elena's theory, genetic coding equaled one's destiny. A total rewrite of that code meant fate itself had been rewritten. He sensed a powerful, mysterious force at work and immediately recalled the strange incident when Lu Zhongtang's luopan spun once every minute inside the 23rd floor conference room. And Liang forced himself to stay calm. Casually, he said, "The police ruled it natural death. Do you have any other theories?" Elena reverted to her earlier lazy demeanor. "None, just doing some research." "Your results give me another reference point. But we'll find the answer eventually, it's only a matter of time." And Liang didn't have time to linger too long at Elena's institute. He needed to follow his daily escape plan and head back toward downtown New York right away. As he left, Elena told him he could call her anytime and if he wanted, he was welcome to return to the institute. On the way, Liang recounted what had happened at the institute to Jing and Lu Zhongtang. He also learned from Elena that her team in biotech engineering had essentially cracked the genetic codes behind nearly all human social behaviors: political aptitude and ideological leanings, talent tendencies and career capabilities, social status and wealth accumulation, romantic preferences and marital outcomes, congenital illnesses and acquired disabilities, lifespan and fertility. All of these could now be statistically predicted from a person's genetic code. In other words, by analyzing a newborn's DNA, one could foresee the trajectory of their entire life. Elena wasn't satisfied with the current results, yet the company had already begun deploying her findings, though she still had no idea what they were using them for. And Liang took off his suit jacket and put on a bulletproof vest, poking his head out from beneath a football shoulder pad. Elena suspects her genetic research might be integrated into the Geological Institute's project, the one Matvi's running, but she hasn't found any concrete leads yet. And Jing handed him the football helmet without missing a beat. "This helmet needs washing." Even people inside the company noticed something was off about David's death. "Danny must know about the sudden genetic shift, right?" Lu Zhongtang, driving up front, called out loudly. "Don't Elena and Matvi's projects communicate at all?" I asked, and Liang replied. She said the company built this new institute on Alert Mountain No. 2 specifically to advance biotech initiatives. But due to commercial confidentiality, their departments aren't structurally linked. Anyway, I ran out of time. I had to get out of there alive. I'll talk to her more next time. And Jing held Cuckoo in her lap and fell silent for a moment before saying, "I think Elena's hiding some connections and facts. The Feng Shui layout of her biotech institute rivals that of 120 Wall Street, and its metaphysical standing even surpasses the Split Rock Valley Geological Research Institute." And Liang let out a short laugh before I left. I asked Elena if she'd ever studied anything besides biotech engineering. She said no. And Jing and Lu Zhongtang both snorted in unison. Humph. They still remembered how earlier that morning the real hacker Daniel had breached David Group's personnel database and discovered that Elena held dual PhDs in biotech engineering and geography from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the cradle of scientists. There was no doubt now, and Jing's suspicion was correct. Elena had lied, and shortly after, Daniel infiltrated MIT's archives and confirmed beyond question Elena's academic background. Her geography credentials had become the next critical piece of the puzzle. Daniel had broken into David Group's main server many times before, yet he'd never found the files, and Liang had secretly photographed, not even a trace of related keywords. That could only mean one thing. David Group operated a second, completely isolated internal system. If that was true, casually hacking from home was no longer an option. They'd have to physically locate that hidden server to access everything. But just getting into Split Rock Valley once had nearly cost them their lives. How could they possibly find a server whose location was unknown? Even if they managed to sneak into Danny's office or home to use his computer for remote intrusion, Daniel's build simply wasn't suited for high-stakes stealth work. And if caught, he'd surely file a criminal report, turning the whole affair into a legal nightmare. Clearly, targeting machines was far less promising than targeting people. Elena was likely their best lead, and Liang would definitely seek her out again. When they finally arrived home safely, Li Xiaoxian had already laid out a dinner rich with Southeast Asian flavors. People living in the tropics paradoxically adore bold, fragrant, spicy, and savory tastes. Without vibrant chilies, aromatic curries, scallions, and cilantro, it wouldn't be authentic local cuisine. Bak kut teh and Hainanese chicken rice, curry fish head and satay beef, all sat temptingly before Sister Jing, yet none were permissible for her to eat. She sat at the fragrant table with eyes closed, praying fervently for God's forgiveness for her greed, while sneaking peeks through half-lidded eyes to see the expression of whoever took the first bite of pork ribs. Glaring at the bowl of laksa noodles, specially modified for her, less spicy, minus scallops and shrimp, she grumbled. "You all finished your prayers so quickly. God will punish you for that." Everyone burst into nervous laughter.
Chopsticks frozen mid-air.
Li Xiaoxian then carried over a small bowl from the stove and said gently, "So I made a special dish just for Sister Jing. That way she can plead to God on our behalf." "Oh." And Jing's eyes sparkled instantly. What she set down was a bowl of rojak salad, a Chinese-influenced Javanese-style mix featuring tropical fruits, century eggs, tofu puffs, fried dough sticks, and smoked squid bits for umami depth, all tossed in a complex dressing of shrimp paste, chili, tamarind, and lime juice. The result was a symphony of sweet, sour, spicy, and savory notes that lingered long after each bite. After tasting it, Jing declared, "Now this is proper vegetarian food for a nun. There are so many dishes tonight, I'll eat this whole bowl of rojak myself." Li Xiaoxian smiled softly. "Exactly. It's not really suited for most people." So I only made a small portion. And Jing immediately felt ashamed, crossed herself and bowed her head to eat. The meal was delicious. Everyone ate heartily, and then Liang more so than ever before. The food itself was already dangerously good, but cooked by Li Xiaoxian, it became irresistible. His lingering frustration over not having gotten anywhere with her poured entirely into appreciating her culinary artistry. He devoured dish after dish, compensating for his emotional void with sheer gusto. Near the end of the meal, Li Xiaoxian casually asked about the day's visit to the institute. Did Elena make any unreasonable demands? And Liang, mouth full, nodded vigorously and mumbled, very unreasonable. I analyzed over 400 Bazi charts in 1 hour. Li Xiaoxian gasped. Less than 10 seconds per chart. That's incredible. Swallowing a chunk of chicken, and Liang clarified, I didn't do deep calculations, just checked key patterns and marked checkboxes. Things like congenital disability or accidental death are obvious at a glance. And Jing, who had slowed her eating pace, finally chimed in. Plus, we use the family's inherited rapid calculation method. It's much faster than standard Ziping Bazi analysis. Wow, that's impressive. What does Elena need all this for? And Liang wiped his mouth and said, she's cross-referencing it with the genetic codes she's decoded. Any discrepancies would be valuable to her. You're being way too uncooperative. You know, I took a bullet for you. Even if you won't marry me in return, at least give us a little info. I always thought the David Group only did construction projects. Who'd have guessed today's engineering firms are into bioengineering? At this rate, they'll start producing mutant beast soldiers like in sci-fi movies. Li Xiaoxian knew and Liang was joking, but she still answered earnestly. The David Group has many different projects. If you chase every lead like this, you'll get lost in the details. I don't understand the technical side, but anything about personnel, I'm happy to tell you. Liu Zhongtang set down his chopsticks. This topic could go on forever. Let's talk more later. Right now, let's just enjoy our meal. I love the satay beef Xiaoxian made, and Liang glanced at Liu Zhongtang's full beard, which was indeed smeared with plenty of satay sauce. He seemed like an honest guy. Curious, and Liang asked, does your beard often get stuff stuck in it? Only when the sauce is thick, Liu replied after washing it. Do you use conditioner or something? No need. Just trim it into shape. Why not shave it off completely? It's a statement. Can't shave it. A statement about what? Just eat your food. After finishing his meal and seeing An Liang had no more questions, Liu Zhongtang bid everyone goodbye and headed home. Everyone had been running around all day and was exhausted. They quickly got ready for bed. Kuko's sleeping basket was in Anjing's room. At exactly 3 a.m., the dog woke up startled by a faint sound. It climbed out, padded to the door and pressed its bearded snout under the gap, sniffing carefully. Recognizing the scents as An Liang's and Li Xiaoxian's, it returned to its basket and settled back down, eyes closed. Li Xiaoxian, wearing a white nightgown with her long hair loose, quietly stepped out of her room. She didn't turn on any lights or make a sound, holding her phone as she walked straight to An Lang's room. She stood silently outside his door, perfectly still. After a while, An Lang opened his door. He wore only white briefs revealing a well-proportioned, leanly muscular frame. The room was pitch black except for a narrow yellow glow filtering through the curtains from the street-facing window. Li Xiaoxian gently closed the door behind her, and they both sat down on the long sofa in the center of the room, speaking in hushed tones. A short time later, An Lang's door opened again. Now wrapped in a robe, he and Li Xiaoxian slipped out one after the other in the dark, passing through the gym and heading down to the basement. In the basement corridor, An Lang didn't switch on the ceiling lights, only the dim floor-level guide lights were on. He'd grown up in this house. He could navigate every corner blindfolded. Light was unnecessary. They didn't wander. They went straight to the library room. An Liang slowly sifted through books on the shelves while Li Xiaoxian remained outside the doorway, never stepping in. Each time he pulled out a stack of books, he'd come out and hand them to her. After she glanced through them, she'd return them and he'd put them back in place. They repeated this routine for an entire hour, maintaining complete silence the whole time, and Njing saw everything. At that moment, Njing lay face down on her bed, buried under the covers. She hadn't fully woken from a string of nightmares that had jolted her back to reality. Cuckoo began whimpering anxiously, but she silenced him instantly with a hand signal. Gathering her strength, she dragged her laptop into the blanket nest. The screen displayed live feeds from hidden cameras placed throughout the house. Beside the computer sat 2 Beretta pistols. She was typing a message to the other side of the globe, addressed to her and An Liang's mother, An Yun. It was afternoon in Beijing. An Yun stood before a new energy skyscraper under construction, wearing a hard hat and a simple gray Chinese-style tunic. In her hands rested a lupan. She was conducting a Feng Shui assessment for the board of directors of Southern New Energy Development Co., LILI-D. An Yun was slender and of average height, showing no signs of middle-aged weight gain. From behind, she looked like a girl in her 20s. Her short haircut featured a few longer strands that sprang up along her hairline and swept dynamically across her forehead, giving her an energetic, spirited look. Combined with her delicate features and sharp jawline, her face, though appearing around 40, radiated striking beauty. She always wore a gentle, understanding smile, the kind that made people feel any problem could be solved in her presence. That was precisely why she was known as the living Guanyin in New York's metaphysical circles. Despite her beauty, And Yoon never overdid her appearance. She believed that good character made any outfit look elegant, as long as it was clean, well-fitted, and understated. The plain, flowing Chinese tunic suited her perfectly, carrying such natural grace that it seemed the traditionally masculine style had been made for her alone. In truth, she wasn't understated at all. In modern China, wearing traditional Chinese clothing, whether tangzhuang, qipao, or tunic, was unconventional and drew attention. And now, standing among a group of men in Western suits, each hanging intently on her every word about the site's feng shui, she stood out even more. When her phone chimed with a text message, she knew something was happening. Every home is a living entity bearing its own destiny from the day it's completed. For this perilous month, she had already calculated the Bazi of Liang and every family member, and analyzed the house's feng shui down to the hour. This month, the 3 green robbery star had entered their New York home, a sign of potential burglary. To neutralize this threat, they'd installed hidden surveillance cameras in advance, moved all valuables to a bank with favorable feng shui, and mounted a special lighting fixture above the front door, a disc composed of 9 small bulbs specifically designed to counteract the 3 green robbery star. In feng shui, resolution takes precedence over confrontation. This setup followed that principle perfectly. Rather than focusing solely on catching thieves, which isn't the highest form of protection, it was better to eliminate the thief's desire to steal altogether, or ensure there was nothing worth stealing. That way, both the household and the intruder remain unharmed. Though Yoon wasn't in New York, she stayed in daily contact with Liang and Jing. When she learned Liang planned to go to Singapore, she was deeply upset, even feeling that human plans couldn't overcome fate. She'd worked so hard designing life-saving feng shui arrangements, fortifying their home with meticulous protective layouts, yet Liang chose to leave the safest place at the most dangerous time, all to escort a woman back to Singapore. But when he told her he didn't want to carry regrets in his limited lifetime, she had no choice but to let him go. After all, his feet were his own. She couldn't chain him down even if she wanted to. It was precisely the time when the thief star activated in the house. All sorts of pre-installed surveillance cameras and infrared security nets would trigger an alarm the moment anyone entered from outside. And Yoon wasn't worried about theft. What she feared most was a confrontation between intruders and her 2 children, which could lead to fatal injuries. Before leaving home, she had repeatedly reminded them, if they spotted a thief trying to break in, they must drive him away immediately. If they couldn't drive him off, they absolutely must not try to trap him, they had to let him go. Most importantly, they must never come face to face with the thief during the burglary. The meticulously arranged feng shui layout of the house could easily be shattered by some random burglar whose bays of fate happened to clash with Liang's. But all that was just hypothetical. In reality, Liang had brought a strange woman into the An household. Yoon had heard that Li Shoshan's Beza formed a mandarin ducks and butterflies compatibility pattern with Liang's, which eased her worries slightly. Such a person's presence would trigger a transformative fusion in Liang's destiny chart, and given that his current configuration pointed toward imminent death, any change couldn't possibly make things worse. Still, Yoon remained deeply skeptical. How could Liang, who hadn't had a single trace of peach blossom luck since turning 20, suddenly meet a 1-in-a-million girl whose Beza perfectly matched his, as if destined by heaven? She had warned Liang seriously, but he'd completely ignored her advice, merely telling her to relax and assuring her he'd handle everything himself. With no other choice, she instructed Jing to keep a close eye on Li Shoshan, especially inside the house, and make sure she didn't cause any trouble. The mysterious death case involving David Group had been placed before Liang right from the first day of his death month, and he'd shown unusual interest in it. And Yoon had been keeping up with developments via phone calls. She understood why her son would throw himself so fiercely into a client's case at such a critical time. It was a mix of a feng shui master's natural curiosity, his obsession with Chinese metaphysics, loyalty to friends, and sheer defiance against the final days of his own life, lying quietly in bed waiting to die. He'd rather climb the Statue of Liberty and jump off, splattering himself all over the front page of tomorrow's newspaper. A message arriving from the US shortly after 3 p.m. made Yoon's heart clench. It was 3 a.m. in New York. Something must have happened. Her phone showed a call from Jing, with a text message reading, "Bro and Li Shoshan just walked out of their rooms and went down to the basement study to look for books. No lights on, not speaking. I'm watching through the security feed from under my blanket. Too scared to call. Afraid I'll wake them." And Yoon instantly sensed something eerie was unfolding. She quickly excused herself from the construction site meeting and rushed back toward her hotel, typing replies as she ran. She was in Beijing primarily for the Xining Corporation skyscraper feng shui project, staying just a 10-minute walk from Xining Tower. But now, even that short distance felt too long. She needed to get back to her hotel immediately to access the live feed from the home security system. She sprinted out of the construction site. The moment she reached the roadside, she chased down a taxi, threw a bill at the driver, and shouted, "Straight to the hotel, go." In the car, she replied to Jing, "Good job. Keep communicating like this." "What are they doing now?" Li Shoshan is standing outside the study door. Bro handed her a book, then put it back. Countless theories flashed through Yun's mind, but without evidence, she couldn't accuse anyone. After giving the driver the hotel address, she immediately sent another instruction to Jing. "Can you zoom in on their faces? Check if their eyes look normal." Lying in bed, Jing slowly broke into a cold sweat. She quickly replied, "Definitely not normal. Their eyes are blank like sleepwalking. No more like they've seen a ghost." And Yun waited anxiously for every update. Upon reading this, she fired back. "Anything's possible. Take the Lupin and check any sign of the 8 odd needles." And Jing slowly pulled back her blanket, opened the bedside drawer, and took out a lupan. Under the dim glow of her computer screen, she saw the needle in the center rotating slowly. Exhausted and dizzy, she wondered if she was hallucinating. She shook her head, rubbed her eyes, and looked again. The needle was still turning, and now seemed to be speeding up slightly. That was a clear signal. Danger was escalating. Matching the needle's rotation against the stopwatch on her screen, she messaged Yun. The needle's spinning clockwise about 2 rotations per minute. Still accelerating. Cuckoo started barking. Yun had just stepped out of the taxi and was sprinting into the hotel elevator, eyes glued to her phone, watching the signal bars flicker. She realized something profoundly unnatural was happening at home, an extremely ominous Feng Shui anomaly. Only a sudden lethal shift in geographical energy or electromagnetic fields could cause a lupan needle to spin uncontrollably like this. Inside the elevator, she sent another message to Jing. Wait a little longer. Don't disturb Liang or Li Xiaoxian. And don't leave your room. But the moment she hit send and opened her hotel room door, a new message arrived from Jing. The needle's spinning faster. I'm so sleepy, I think there's dark magic involved. I can't wait anymore. If I fall asleep, brother's in danger. I'm going out to wake him up. Yun turned pale with shock. As she booted up her laptop, she dialed Jing's number directly, and Jing's vision was now flooded with blood-red light. It was clearly the middle of the night, but why was the house engulfed in flames? The sports hall floor was ablaze, though there was nothing flammable in sight, yet sparks crackled everywhere, and the heat was unbearable. A deep, restless anger burned inside her, and in her hand she held a gun. Only this gun could fix things. The world was full of things that shouldn't exist. All this filth belonged in hell. Yes, a hell of fire, just like this. She descended the stairs toward the basement, but the staircase felt far longer than usual, and her limbs were heavy, drained of strength. The walls seemed paper-thin, echoing with muffled screams and wails from the other side. She tried to push forward, but her feet sank as if in mud, unable to lift, unable to move fast. The helplessness only fueled her rage, sharpening her urge to destroy something. A voice inside her head kept repeating, "It's all Li Xiaoxian's fault." If she hadn't gone with Liang to David Group headquarters late at night, he wouldn't have been hunted. If she hadn't asked him to take her to the Split Rock Valley Geological Research Institute, he wouldn't have risked entering. If she hadn't introduced Elena to him, he wouldn't keep obsessing over returning to Alert Mountain No. 2. And worst of all, if she hadn't moved into the house, and Liang would have stayed up late chatting with her in the kitchen instead of sharing red wine with Li Xiaoxian. At the end of the corridor stood Li Xiaoxian, dressed in the same white nightgown as Jing. The firelight in Jing's eyes cast a crimson glow across Li Xiaoxian's face. Just as Li Xiaoxian received a book from Liang, she looked up and found Jing pointing a pistol straight at her. In the hotel suite, the laptop on the desk remained open, connected to the remote monitoring system showing the situation at home. Yun turned on the screen and saw through the black and white night vision feed that Jing, dressed in a long white nightgown, was staggering across the gym hall toward the basement corridor, clutching her phone in one hand and an automatic pistol in the other, with a schnauzer puppy trailing behind her. Yun kept calling Jing's phone, on screen. She could see the phone in Jing's hand flashing, but Jing seemed completely unaware, continuing downward with the gun raised. Earlier, to avoid making noise that might wake Liang, Jing had switched her phone to silent mode. Incoming calls now only triggered a blinking light. Yun glanced at another monitor, and Liang and Li Xiaoxian were still mechanically moving books and flipping through pages. In a flash of inspiration, she formed a sword finger seal, gripped her phone tightly, pulled out the stylus and began chanting, "One stroke cleaves heaven and earth bright. One bar seals the ghostly path tight. 2 dots illuminate sun and moon clear. Evil spirits vanish, none dare appear. By celestial decree, divine soldiers heed, fire forth, swift as law commands." As the incantation ended, a solemn talisman resembling ancient seal script, the Yuhan Sha Zhen Fu, materialized on her phone screen. With a sharp cry, she hit send, transmitting the talisman directly to Jing's phone. Sending an image over an international call wasn't instantaneous. Yun watched anxiously as the symbol slowly uploaded. But on screen, she already saw Jing silently raising her gun in the darkness, aiming straight at Li Xiaoxian's head. Li Xiaoxian sensed someone nearby. She turned slowly, staring directly down the barrel, but her eyes weren't focused on the room. It was as if she were gazing far beyond, towards some distant horizon. Liang, still holding a book from the study, stepped out to hand it to Li Xiaoxian and froze when he saw Jing. A strange smile spread across his face as he walked toward her, but Jing instantly swung the gun toward him. On the computer screen, Yun saw Liang standing between Jing and Li Xiaoxian. Li Xiaoxian's view was blocked by Liang's body. Gently, Liang stepped aside and extended his right hand, holding his phone toward Jing. Jing, caught in a half-dream state, reacted instinctively. Seeing a raised hand, she whipped the gun back and pulled the trigger. Bang! A deafening shot echoed through the basement. The bullet struck Li Xiaoxian's phone, shattering it into pieces and flinging her hand away. The force knocked Li Xiaoxian backward onto the floor. The gunshot jolted Jing awake. The fiery haze in her vision vanished. Under the dim basement lights, she saw Liang kneeling beside Li Xiaoxian, cradling her. Jing couldn't remember why she was even there. Terrified, she stood frozen, staring at her gun and at Li Xiaoxian, convinced she'd just killed her. She watched as Liang shifted from kneeling to sitting, shielding Li Xiaoxian with his body, his eyes still distant, unfocused, occasionally raising a hand to cover his face, clearly lost in hallucination. Panicked, and Jing fumbled for her phone. Her left hand trembled as she saw it flashing non-stop. She answered immediately, hearing Yun's urgent voice. Jing, I saw you fire, did you kill someone? That question sent Jing into deeper panic. Dazed, she stammered, I don't know, I'll check first. Don't look, drop the gun and switch your phone to intercom mode now. And Jing obeyed. Instantly, Yun's voice filled the basement corridor. Following her instructions, and Jing crouched in front of Liang. Yun continued, I just sent you a Yuhun Sha Zhen Fu. When I count to 3, press your phone against Liang's ear. After I finish the chant, pull up the talisman on your screen, seal it with sword fingers against his forehead, and trace the 9-word mandala. Hearing this, Jing nearly broke into tears. I'm Sister Jing. I haven't practiced Celestial Master Dao internal arts in years. I'm afraid I can't do it. Yun's tone turned sharp and commanding. You can do exactly as I say right now. Jing pressed the phone to Liang's ear. The murmured incantation seeped into his mind. His lips began to move faintly, then softly echoed Yun's chant. With one hand holding the phone to his ear, Jing used the other to examine Li Xiaoqin's body. Li Xiaoqin was unconscious but showed no gunshot wounds, only her right palm bled heavily, riddled with deep lacerations from the shattered phone. Jing listened closely to the chant, a ritual she'd learned as a child, though life had led her away from these old ways. Now, in this moment of crisis, it was precisely these forgotten arts that offered salvation. When Yun finished with swift as law commands, Jing immediately pulled up the glowing talisman on her screen. Pressing it against Liang's forehead with sword fingers, she gathered her focus using childhood qigong techniques and traced 9 intersecting lines in the shape of a well before his eyes, chanting aloud, Lin Bing Do Jie Jie Zhen Lai Zai Qian. The moment the final syllable left her lips, the phone screen flashed intensely, brighter than ever. Liang's eyes cleared instantly. He looked at Jing, squinted at the phone pressed to his brow, and asked, What are you trying to do? Li Xiaoqin stirred awake, blinking in wonder at the sight of Sister Jing pressing a phone to Liang's forehead with sword fingers. Back upstairs, they rushed to examine and bandage Li Xiaoqin's injuries. Her hand was badly wounded, but fortunately, Jing's pistol had been loaded with rubber bullets. Striking the phone instead of flesh, the round hadn't fractured any bones, though deep gashes still marred her palm. Liang insisted on taking her to the hospital. By the time they returned home, dawn had broken. No one could sleep. In the main study on the first floor, 5 computers were booted up, replaying the night's terrifying events. They also connected to Yun's video conferencing system, holding a global family meeting. On the table beside the computers sat a Luopan compass, kept ready to detect any strange needle movements. But now the needle lay still. Next to it rested 2 Beretta automatic pistols, for warding off evil, Jing declared. From the moment Li Xiaoqin entered their lives, Yun had watched her closely. Based on Liang's description of her Mandarin duck and butterfly destiny and her birth year, Yun had deduced Li Xiaoqin's full date and Bazi chart. Yet the exact hour of birth remained unknown, even Liang didn't know it. Without that final piece, claiming a perfect Ziping Bazi match felt forced. After all, a complete Bazi requires 4 pillars: year, month, day and hour, each represented by 2 Chinese characters, totaling 8. Missing the hour pillar made the Mandarin duck and butterfly label little more than wishful thinking. Without knowing the exact birth hour, it was impossible to construct a complete Bazi chart. Liang had asked Li Xiaoqin about this before, but she said no one had ever told her. He then tried to deduce her birth time by analyzing key life events and family structure, but Li Xiaoqin refused to talk much about her family. Normally, a simple girl, not wanting to discuss her private family matters with outsiders, would be perfectly understandable, but in the N household, where strange incidents kept happening one after another, she suddenly seemed like a mysterious figure. Moreover, according to the surveillance footage just reviewed, the first person to walk out at 3 a.m. was none other than Li Xiaoqin. The family meeting was naturally led by Yun. She began by addressing Li Xiaoqin directly. Xiaoqin, since you've only known Liang for a short while, and suddenly moved into our home these past 2 days, right when all these strange things started happening, we're all trying to find the root cause. I hope you understand. May I ask you a few questions first? Li Xiaoqin sat beside Liang, wearing a long knitted sweater and jeans he'd bought for her. Her hand wrapped tightly in a large bandage, like an injured little white rabbit. She nodded and said softly, I know your whole family has been very kind to me. If Liang hadn't saved me, I'd be dead by now. Yun replied gently, and you've been very good to Liang too. I saw how you pulled him away when Jingjing was waving that gun around. You made him dodge the bullet. On the screen, Yun sat comfortably on the large sofa, dressed in a crisp white Tang-style suit, holding a teacup in one hand. With the other, she lifted the lid slightly and blew softly over the surface of the tea. Li Xiaoqian didn't express any particular gratitude for Yun's careful observation or understanding. She merely gave a faint, quiet smile. Yun took a small sip of tea and asked, Can you tell us why you walked to Liang's door at 3 in the morning? Li Xiaoqian looked at Yun again. The older woman's expression remained gentle and reserved, showing no hint of blame toward anyone. Li Xiaoqian raised her hand to smooth back her long hair, as if trying to organize her thoughts first. Then she said, Actually, I don't remember much of the whole process. I only recall that I was dreaming, but even the dream itself is blurry now. It felt like I was watching past events through a lens. There was a voice telling me to find someone and that this person would take me far away. And Yoon listened with keen interest and interjected. Was the voice male or female? Did it come from far away, or did you hear it inside your mind? And Liang turned toward Li Xiaojun, leaning forward with a furrowed brow. In your dream, were you looking for me? Li Xiaojun smiled faintly. It was a distant male voice telling me to find someone from ancient times. And then? And Yoon pressed. Then I stood waiting on a deserted roadside. He came walking toward me from afar and led me into a room. He said we needed to take some things and leave, but we couldn't find them. After that, I don't remember anything. When I woke up, I was right outside the study door. As she spoke, she lifted her bandaged right hand and examined it, looking utterly bewildered about what had happened. Everyone fell silent. And Yoon slowly skimmed the floating tea leaves with her cup lid. And Jing, dressed in her white nun's robe with green trim, held Cuckoo close and stared off into space, lost in thought. And Liang, however, kept pressing the same question. Who was the man you saw in your dream? Was it me? Didn't you get a clear look at who you were following? Li Xiaoxin just shook her head with a quiet smile, then lowered her gaze heavily, letting her champagne gold hair fall over her face. And Yoon said gently, and Liang, don't pressure Xiaoxin anymore. She was just chased and nearly killed, and now she's injured. Let her rest quietly for a bit. Honestly, I don't have any clear answers yet either. These things won't be solved overnight. Xiaoxin, if you're tired, go back to your room and rest. We'll chat a little longer and then sleep too. Li Xiaoxin nodded and left the study, returning to her guest room. On Yoon's computer screen, the surveillance footage remained open, and Yoon watched Li Xiaoxin's every move, even the subtle flutter of her eyelashes and unconscious twitching of her fingers, without missing a detail. To Yoon, Li Xiaoxin appeared to be a quiet, polite girl with flawless beauty. If not for all these bizarre events, and if Liang's destiny hadn't clearly indicated he wasn't meant for such fortune, Li Xiaoxin would have been her ideal daughter-in-law. Li Xiaoxin was undeniably beautiful, yet she lacked the typical fated-for-tragedy features often seen in classic beauties according to Chinese metaphysics. Her forehead was broad and rounded, suggesting high intelligence and a naturally likable disposition, clearly someone who'd been cherished since childhood. Her eyebrows were exquisitely arched like crescent moons above her long-lashed eyes, enchanting yet artificially refined. They revealed nothing of her true family background, judging by those delicate willow-like brows paired with her noble forehead shape. She should have come from an extremely wealthy and powerful family, but she herself had told Liang she'd left her parents at a very young age. Her nose wasn't particularly high, but it was slender, straight, and well-proportioned. The bridge between her eyes, the mountain root, was notably prominent, resembling Western features. In physiognomy, this was a rare mark of prosperity and nobility. For a woman, it typically indicated early marriage, a husband blessed by her presence, children who thrive, and significant personal achievements. Yet Li Xiaoxin's current situation, fired from her job in America, then hunted down and nearly killed, hardly matched such an auspicious destiny. And Yoon thought to herself, something must be false. Her background, her luck, her nose, or even her face, but none of that truly troubled her. What really worried Yoon was in Liang himself. He was her own student, a rising master of Chinese metaphysics. How could he possibly miss the glaring contradiction between Li Xiaoxin's facial features and her actual fate? Of course he saw it, and he'd likely pondered it even more deeply than she had. But that boy always followed his own path. After Li Xiaoxin returned to her room, and Yoon asked Liang to close the study door, and then questioned each of them separately about what had happened. And Liang said, I was asleep and dreaming the whole time. I dreamed I was back in the anti-Japanese war era, which sounds similar to Xiaoxin's dream of going back to ancient times. I didn't want to interrupt her train of thought earlier, but honestly, my dream was almost identical. There was also a voice guiding me to find something. I was practically going mad in the dream. I didn't know what he wanted me to find. All I knew was that I had to search inside a cave. Japanese planes were bombing overhead, and I desperately wanted to move faster, but my body wouldn't obey. It felt completely useless. And Jing interrupted. I felt the same way when I was half asleep. My whole body felt incredibly heavy, and Yun doted on Jing to the point of spoiling her. No matter what trouble Jing caused, and Yun could never bring herself to scold her. Having failed to teach her discipline, she'd eventually sent her to the convent. So Jing's habit of interrupting was nothing new. And Yun simply chuckled warmly and said, Hey, the footage already showed how heavy you felt. Let your brother finish first. Go on, and Liang. Right, and Liang continued. Inside the cave I saw many strange artifacts. In the dream I somehow knew they were all ancient relics, each holding deep secrets. Never imagined I'd actually end up in our family's library. He grinned sheepishly. Looks like our collection of metaphysical texts is truly a national treasure. And Yun smiled and asked Liang, were you the only one going treasure hunting in your dream? Heh. And Liang crossed his arms over his chest, leaned back in his chair and chuckled. And Yun, I know you're a master at interpreting dreams, but my dream wasn't that straightforward. I just dreamed I was carrying an old-fashioned camera, the big metal kind, and I was dressed head to toe in clothes from that era. They felt really uncomfortable against my skin. And Yun's smile faded. She repeated his words slowly. Oh, you felt uncomfortable, and Jing couldn't stay quiet any longer and chimed in. I felt uncomfortable too, really hot, like I'd stepped into hell. After hearing both of their detailed accounts, and Yun asked for their opinions. And Jing believed they'd been possessed, demon-possessed, as the church would say. Though Feng Shui masters shouldn't always brush things off with such explanations, with her mom and older brother around, it was perfectly natural for little sister and Jing to play the blissfully clueless role. And Liang said, I noticed something this shares with the David Group case. From the perspective of orthodox Feng Shui, there's nothing wrong. Our home's current Feng Shui cycle only shows thief star entering the gate. At worst, it's human sabotage. But last night the whole family was affected. If we followed traditional methods, we'd need to set up an altar immediately for exorcism. Still, I don't believe in supernatural forces. Instead, I feel we're getting closer to solving David's death. Closer how? And Yun asked curiously. And Liang picked up a pen and paper from the table and wrote something down. I'll tell you over the phone later, he said, holding it up for Yun to see. She nodded in understanding, then turned to Jing. Jing, use your brain a little. With both affection and gentle teasing, she passed the question right back to her daughter. And Yun's heart was deeply conflicted. She knew this was fate's design. Those destined to die always attract chaos, and she herself always felt drawn to do things that might get her killed. Her children were smart and beautiful, but one misstep could mean burying them before her time. This moment might forever be frozen in memory. As a family rooted in Feng Shui, they had no choice but to stand and fight fate. But the path ahead was clearly growing more difficult and dangerous by the day. The only hopeful angle was that perhaps God was testing her children. And Jing sucked in a sharp breath and said, I can't think with you two watching me. Hey, you're so, and Lang started, but his mother cut him off. Oh, and Lang, Jing, close your eyes and speak. I want to hear what you think. And Jing grinned playfully, shut her eyes, thought for a moment and said, I think there's a key question. Is the person chasing Xiaoxian the same one who killed David? Danny fired Xiaoxian and immediately after she was targeted. That doesn't make sense. If I were Danny, I wouldn't strike right after firing her. Everyone would suspect he wanted her dead to silence her. The attacker seems unaware she was fired. So it might have nothing to do with the dismissal. As for why she's being hunted, she won't say, and we can't guess. And GE keeps protecting her all the time. An Liang stayed silent. An Yun guessed he was saving his thoughts for the phone call, so she said to An Jing, that really is the key. If these are two separate groups, then An Liang's initial assumption was wrong. The people after him aren't the ones who killed David, and it has nothing to do with Feng Shui layouts. That makes things very complicated. We'll take it one step at a time. Do you still want to go to Singapore? And Liang replied, of course. I'm taking Shoshan back, and we'll vacation for half a month while we're at it. After the family meeting, An Liang whispered a few words into An Jing's ear. He suspected someone had placed a sinister Feng Shui device in the Huangquan Basha direction of their house. The two siblings then returned to their rooms and ransacked them for hours. Finding nothing, they met in the study, reviewed all recent surveillance footage, and still saw no anomalies. Frustrated, they simply turned off the monitors and went down to the basement corridor to gather the shattered pieces of the broken phone. They were leaving for Singapore the next day, but today they still had to carry out the Feng Shui-based destiny-altering plan, a high-stakes evasion maneuver across New York City, and finish final preparations. Once Lu Zhongtong arrived, and Lang drove to the building below his Feng Shui consultancy office and handed a bag of phone fragments to Daniel. He instructed Daniel to reassemble the device and figure out what other functions it might have besides making calls. Meanwhile, An Jing had bought dozens of metal model kits on the street and was now disassembling them in the back of the vehicle. She first took apart her two Beretta pistols into individual components, mixed the gun parts with the model pieces inside the boxes, resealed them with tape, and planned to mail them to a pre-booked hotel in Singapore when they passed the post office. Liu Zhongtang was driving the ice cream truck toward Long Island. In the front passenger seat, and Lang put on his bulletproof vest and football padding, then rested his helmet against his hands and casually asked, when you first met Sister Jing, was she like this? No, Liu Zhongtong said. She was very gentle back then. How did you find out she was like this? Liu Zhongtong smoothly signaled, turned the wheel and whipped the truck around a sharp bend. Once, some prisoners tried to escape and took several nuns hostage. Before the prison guards could take a shot, Sister Jing took them all down herself, and Lang whipped his head around and snapped at An Jing. You never told me about something that dangerous? Are you trying to get yourself killed? Startled, An Jing looked up with wide eyes, a magazine still clamped between her teeth like a frightened weasel ready to bolt, an absurd contrast to her solemn nun's habit. Her hands full of parts and the magazine muffling her voice. She garbled. What? And Lang stared at her worriedly for a moment, then sighed. Never mind, it's fine. He turned back to Liu Zhongtang and muttered, violence is dangerous. Safety first, right? Liu Zhongtang nodded. Sometimes that's true. But sometimes, violence works very well. And Lang slumped back into his seat and mumbled to himself. We have absolutely no common language. In a small grove on Long Island, and Jing and Liu Zhongtang sat at opposite ends of a large picnic table, both positions aligned with deadly Shachi directions for En Liang. Between them sat a Chinese chessboard, and they played calmly, undisturbed, fully armored, and Liang paced back and forth across the wooden table, occasionally stepping over the chessboard, phone pressed to his ear as he spoke nonstop with Elena. He learned from Elena that Matvey, the head of the Split Rock Valley Geological Research Institute, had previously been in charge of bridge, road, and tunnel construction. However, due to his background in astronomy, he had persistently submitted proposals to the company requesting funding for astronomy-related research. The exact nature of the project was unknown, but after months of lobbying, David finally approved the budget for him. This time, Matvey's new product was massive in scale, consuming 90% of the company's development budget. Even Elena's own project had been scaled back as a result. Elena's genetics project, however, had yet to achieve any breakthrough. Her genetic database was already sizable, and she had sufficient reference data. The bottleneck wasn't computational, it was the recent discovery of sudden gene mutations. Currently, mainstream science recognized two primary methods for altering genes: replacement and addition. Both approaches essentially involved injecting healthy genes into existing ones, differing only in dosage and speed of effect. But in practice, both were extremely labor-intensive and highly dependent on manual technical skill. The difference in speed was merely between very slow and extremely slow. Yet Elena had discovered during her research that human genes could mutate within a single day, or even within an hour, and that such mutations invariably led to death. Based on her earlier findings, genes appeared to determine fate. But if genes could be forcibly altered by external forces, that implied fate itself might be rewritten by some powerful influence. As a scientist, she wasn't concerned with whether fate improved or worsened, she only wanted to identify that force. At this point, Liang reminded her that above David's seat, the spot where he died, there was a circular indentation on the ceiling's underside. If she'd noticed the mutation in David's genes, she might find some insight by investigating that clue. While they were still on the call, Daniel squeezed in another line, and Liang quickly switched over. "Yo ho, Dada, how's it going?"